What is up, everyone? Last week I showed you the most simplest form to tie a beetle. Now we're going to throw some creativity into it. Not necessary, but it is fun to do. So in the vise I have a size 10, and I am using Vivis 140 as my thread of choice for today. Get the hook started, or the thread started, my bad. Let's work that back. Have a nice, good thread base. This foam can be a little tricky, especially if you don't have hand function, so it likes to slip. The first thing I'm going to do is add in some, well, I guess the second thing, I'm going to add in some rubber legs if I can get them gripped. I'll do it like this. And then I'll take it and I'll fold it over. So a little tricky to do, especially on this short of a piece. And even more so that the thread keeps unwinding. Then out the back, we'll snip that. So you have two little legs coming out, and we'll snip them off shorter. Not like that. Cut our excess off. Just make sure it's bound down really well. Alright, next we'll grab our foam, and I have it a little longer than you'd probably normally need. That just helps me work with it. And like I said, it can be tricky to work with just because it'll want to slide on you. But try to keep it in place as best as you can and get it bound down. So if you haven't tied many of these, the first few will be pretty tricky until you can figure out how to work the foam. Because on mine, the foam it's not straight. It's wanting to bend around, but pulling it over, it'll be fine. The next, what I want to do is tie in a hackle feather. I'm going to tie that on the near side. And then the body I'm going to use is peacock curl. And what's fun about these flies is there's so many different materials that you could use for the body, for the wing. So you just have to experiment a little bit with what you like, but there really is an endless possibility of materials that you could use to tie a good looking beetle. I'm gonna wrap that up, grab my hackle pliers. So quick tip, you see the peacock curls aren't together. If you're trying to get them both straight or together and grip them with your hackle pliers, especially if you can't just pinch them, put a little bit of water on your hand and run it down them, and it'll stick them together. That way you can get your hackle pliers attached to them. And we're going to start palmering this forward. Thread's wanting to fight me a bit today. Wrap this up a little bit more, and then we'll capture that. And then you can just break it right off with the hackle pliers. Shorten up my thread some and just make sure it's tied down pretty good. Next we'll grab our hackle, and this is kind of good practice too for a Griffiths gnat. Kind of same steps, which we'll tie one of those on here too, because I think that's probably one of the easiest dry flies to learn on. Do one more wrap right there, And then we'll capture that and tie it off. Kind of crazy looking. Cut this hackle tip out. Any forward facing fibers. And what I'm going to do is trim the fibers off of the top. Probably don't have to, but I'm just going to do it just to make it easier on myself. And then we'll pull this foam over. Looking at it now, foam is going to be problematic being that long. So I'm going to cut it down. Still giving myself plenty to work with, just making it more manageable. Making sure that's tied down really good because it will spin on you. Pull that back, do a few wraps in front, then a few more over the top, a few more in front, just trying to keep that foam from spinning around. Alright, next I am going to add some poly yarn as a wing and also for visibility, because these little flies tend to be kind of hard to see on the water, especially in a low light condition. So I'll do that. I'm going to trim that off a little bit. And I want to clean that up just a tad. And then the dreaded rubber leg again. See if we can tie this one in a little bit easier. Just does not look like it. I'll get it with a couple wraps and then we'll try to work it to either side of the hook. Which, if you have to, use your forceps to give you a grip. grip is my biggest enemy when it comes to tying flies. Just like that. I'll take a few more wraps. I'm going to go ahead and just cut these rubber legs here for my two front legs. And pull this foam back. And make a little head on my beetle. Now you can see how it's forming now. Let's see if I can scoot that back. See how it's forming out. Not the prettiest fly I've ever tied. I'll leave just a little tag on the back like that. And you can take a comb and comb out your poly yarn. I'm going to trim that down just a little bit more. And really it just gives you something to help you see the fly. Definitely not the prettiest fly I've ever tied, but that'll be alright. It doesn't have to be pretty if it catches fish. Take this down just a bit more. Kind of round the edges. And the last thing I want to do before I whip finish, so I'm going to put some dubbing wax on my thread. And I'm going to use just a bit of this peacock dubbing. Just like that. And what this will do is give it a little sparkle on the front, but also keep your legs splayed out. And I used a bit much. I'm going to try to take some of that off. Try to half that. And again, not the prettiest fly I have ever tied. I'm going to whip finish right on the head because I'm kind of out of room at the eye of the hook. And last but not least, we will trim her legs down. And I just eyeball them. What looks good to me. About like that. But there you go. There is a little foam beetle that is a bit extra. And it's a bit much. Might not be required, but it's fun to practice on. And it's fun to learn how to use the different materials. And foam is very tricky to use when you can't grip the materials, but it doesn't look too bad, not for, at least for throwing at panfish. So for throwing at panfish, I mean, it really does not matter at all. They'll still hit it. But I think that's gonna do it. Maybe in the next episode we'll do a Griffith's gnat, because that's a very easy dry fly. I mean, I can get my phone a bit closer to where you can kind of see better, I guess. We'll start doing some of the dry flies that I can tie. But if you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I'm trying to set up some fishing trips to get out and to be able to film, and I'm working on the editing software, trying to learn how to do that. So there'll be a lot more coming to the channel. But I hope y'all have a good Memorial Day, a good safe Memorial's Day, and get out and catch some fish. But until next time, y'all have a good one.